So, Raz and I were just discussing the ethics of meat eating, and we came to the conclusion that we're willing to make an allowance for those cases where you need a high protein diet in order to build muscle. Is there anything you'd like to add to that? Speak. And this simple project will help your dog do just that. It's just a lid with some silicone on it, and it makes a nice seal so that you can open a can, use parts of it, and then put it back in the fridge, use the rest tomorrow. Of course, this will work for anything in a can, like your grapefruit that you can't eat all in one sitting. Sure, this is food safe once the silicone cures. But dog food is one of those things where one of these can last 6 or 7 times, and so this method beats using a baggie and a rubber band. I'll show you how to do it. It's pretty simple. Let's discuss a few of the things you'll need. The obvious part first, you need some cans. Not all cans are the same, so you'll have to get a few of the ones that you're going to be using this trick on. You also need some salsa lids. I think you will find that some pickle jar lids make a fair substitute, but take an average can, average salsa lid, and it's a pretty good fit. You will need some electrical tape, a drinking straw, some rubber bands, preferably thick, fat ones that are on a can, and some dish soap, heavily watered down in a spray bottle. You should have one of these in your shop anyway, so it's really useful. And of course, you'll need some silicone. The brand is irrelevant. All of the marketing claims that they make are all irrelevant. The only thing that matters is that it says somewhere 100% silicone. There it is. And a brief note to those of you who may not use this stuff all that much. If after you squirt some out, if it doesn't start to become rubbery within, let's say, an hour or two, then the tube is probably old. They have a life. So I usually date when I pick them up. And after you cut the tip, it has a half-life. Depending on how you keep it, it's usually a couple months tops. So real quick, if it's not getting rubbery within an hour or two, throw the tube out and get a new one. We're going to be fastening these together with an airtight seal, so you'll have to find something dangerous to poke a hole in the can, and that way it will enable the pressure to be equal inside and outside of the can as the silicone cures. If you don't do this, then you might get some weird expansion where the silicone bubbles out or something. Just do it. Let's prep our can with some electrical tape right up against the lid of the can. In my prototype, I wrap the electrical tape like this. There is some good reasoning for doing that, but I've decided to go with this instead this time. Think about why I'm doing this, and we can discuss in the comments, but I don't really want to elaborate here because it's not that interesting. I'm doing it this way, and I'm sure you can probably think about what my justification is. Once around with about 1.5 inch overlap, not all that important. Just try to get a watertight seal here against the lip. Next, we want to move this rubber band down to on top of the electrical tape. Now it's about 1/8 of an inch up from the lid, and what I'm using here is just a square brass bar. But if you don't have something like this, an Allen key will work, or even a nail. Consider this crude drawing here as a cross-section of the silicone gasket that we're creating. And you can see the purpose of the rubber band right here. It will give the silicone a clean break, but also it will keep the silicone from sort of feathering up to nothing here, which would easily peel away and make a mess. We want to get silicone way down in the bottom there, but this tip is way too big to do so. So take a look up close at what the straw could do, because it'll be tough for me to capture this on film later. It's a very tiny gap, and the idea is to get the straw way down inside and squirt the silicone in from the bottom and then gradually move out. If you just apply it to the top here and then try to squish it in, you'll just end up with a mess. Here's some mineral oil that I can use as a mold release. I want the silicone to bond to this lid, but not to the can. So we'll just apply it right here. Don't go crazy, just a little bit. Functionally, a lid like this acts as a union. These ribs around here on the rim grab a hold of the threads that are on a glass jar and pull the lid tight to it. And so this part here has a coating on it that will prevent rust, but the insides won't, it's just metal. The insides are what we're bonding our silicone to. If we can make a watertight seal the whole way around, there will be nothing anywhere for moisture to attack, and one of these can last a long time. Before starting, I clear the work area of everything except what's shown. And a pro tip, start by putting some soap water on your hands. This will save you a lot of hassle in the long run, because if you forget to do it and silicone bonds to your skin, then it keeps bonding and you can't get it to stop. Sometimes this rubbery gasket that's on the inside of the lid will help you sort of snap the can into the center. And hopefully this heavy metal weight will hold it there. And if you don't have a weight, you can just hold it with one hand and apply the caulking with the other hand, as I did for the prototype. At first, concentrate on getting it as deep down into the lid as you can. You can always fix the surface later, that's just cosmetic. The secret here is in the soap. Silicone does not stick to slippery, wet fingers. And so that will give you lots of time to tool it around and get it to do exactly what you want it to do. You're really not under much time pressure here, surprisingly. Just wipe away the excess with a paper towel, soap your fingers up, and do it again. Repeat until smooth. And when you're done, use the same soapy fingers to create a little cork at the end of the straw, which, once it's solidified, you can pull it out later and reuse. Almost forgot. 24 hours later, or 48 if you're cautious, and these are ready to take apart. You'll note that where the silicone was real thin, it will just sort of rub away, as would some rubber cement. Now let's get rid of the rubber band. And finally, we should be able to free it up with a twist, or a twist and pull, or a press it off, whatever it takes. Maybe a sledgehammer if necessary. Oh, failure. That didn't go well at all, because it comes free of the electrical tape, but it bonded too well to this metal, exactly as I wanted it to in the lid. So I have another one I can try to get apart, but I would probably recommend going back to the way that I did the prototype. Wow, the second one is even worse. It's just incredible how well the silicone bonds to the metal, even though there's just a little bit of metal there around the lip. The tape simply has to go all the way around. So let me do another one and show you how that turns out. It's probably worth a mention that the tighter you pull this electrical tape, the tighter the finished product will fit. As such, if you're having trouble getting it on or off, then you might want to make a second one in which you make multiple wraps of tape. So now that I'm 24 hours wiser, hopefully I'll also be a little bit more lucky. Silicone not fully cured. We'll give this one another 24 hours. Did you ever have one of those projects where the prototype goes so well, and so you try to follow it up and repeat the same ease, and it just doesn't happen? Cautiously we move forward, and 0 were given. This one's had 2 more days, so it should be ready by now. And another failure. Even if I did have endless patience, which I do not, I still have a finite supply of salsa lids. In places, it's still pretty nice, but once again, it's a mold release problem. And by the way, this new tube of caulking is actually just as old as the one that I used previously, because I bought it at the same store and they both have the same batch number. And so this tube was kind of old. Considering that, I still recommend that you give 48 hours for cure time. Petroleum jelly, much thicker mold release. Another substitute might be vegetable shortening. If it still sticks to that, I'll have to give up. Just kidding, I'll never give up. In a way, I'm happy to take you along in this process. Not because I think you'll learn from my mistakes, because you'd likely make different mistakes than me, but because you can see that we improve through little changes as we go. And it's an important point to remember. Note this lip here. Think of every screw up as an opportunity for refinement, and you'll swear less. Notice that the shape of this kind of curls in under the lip as we press it on. Let's try something different this time, so it doesn't do that. And we'll try it again in 48 hours. If it fails this time, I'll have to make a sequel. Fascinating process, I'm sure, but I wouldn't put you through that. I think it'll work this time. Passable. Look up close, and I still lost a little bit of the silicone, so there's even more room for refinement in this process. But that's the nature of every project, right? And what we're left with is totally functional for what this project has to accomplish. Thank goodness we can finally put a lid on this project. I'm sure she would rather be chasing rodents. Ironically, just as I start to think this dog is really cutting into my productivity, so thinks the dog about me. Come on, let's go outside.